Amanda Mussi is a Brazilian-Paraguayan DJ and producer who is also resident of Brazilian event Mamba Negra and resident music curator of queer party Dando. She's been supporting artists and scenes throughout South America and runs the artist agency Alt Bookings to support local artists. Amanda released her first EP on Massa Records in 2020 and in 2021 started her own radio show and label Macro Hits with longtime friends and collaborator Ananda. Over the last few years, she has played Boiler Room Sao Paulo, Digital, and a number of other parties and festivals all over South America and Europe. In our conversation, we talk about Amanda's support for the South American thriving and fast-evolving electronic music scene, what works for the Brazilian crowd, and how she fortuitously became resident of one of the parties she loves the most, Mamba Negra. Amanda, who also curates the program for Brazilian Queer party Dando, reveals to us her boiler room emotional experience and one of her key personal values: open as many doors as you can. Hey everyone, welcome to this chat with Amanda Mussi. Amanda, thanks again for being with us. It's beautiful to see you also in this landscape with some sun.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Very cool. So for people who might not know you yet, if someone meets you at a cocktail party or let's say a house party and they ask you, what do you do in life? Like, who is Amanda Mussi? What would you answer?
Depends on who's asking. Okay, so I'm a DJ, producer, formerly a graphic designer and illustrator, and also curator.
Music curator, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And at this point in time, you are in Brazil, right?
Yes, I'm in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Yeah, where you held a couple of residencies in some parties in South America. One of the most prominent ones is Mamba Negra, and then there's more and more. But let's talk about Mamba Negra. How did you start your collaboration with them? What is the party for people who would never been, and would love to know more about that?
Okay, so Mamba Negra is basically the best party in the whole world for me and for many people here. It's a warehouse party that it's gonna go 7 years old this year. And it basically started, my residency there basically started as friendship. Many of us, especially Kashu and Laura, the Mamba promoters, we were all neighbors and many DJs in our scene. We live in the same neighborhood. So basically, I was always at Mamba. And at some point, I wasn't officially a resident. It started in a very funny way. Like, I was constantly asked for to be substitute when something happened to the DJs.
Wow.
Like once Kashu she got bitten by a dog and she couldn't be there to play. So she asked me last minute to cover for her. Then there were many situations like that I was just there. And at some point she was like, yeah, but you were always a resident. And I was like, okay, but there was never a
discussion.
Yeah, okay, they just like put me as a resident. And yeah, it's very organic and we were all friends, so it was natural.
Yeah, so you were there since the very start of the party.
No, not actually, no. When Mamba started, they started a year before I started doing my own party, Dusk.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't hanging out that much. And before my party, that's where I started DJing. I was part of this collective called Methanol, which was first an online radio. And then it became a DJ collective with visuals, and we were doing street parties. And I started my own party. So the music styles were very different from each other by then. And slowly we became friends. So I'd say I started going to Mamba and playing with them after 3 years or something.
Got it, yeah. And then, so eventually, like almost by chance, you were always hanging out with them. They started inviting you to fill the gaps, and you became one of the main residents.
Yeah, I already played for them officially.
Yeah.
But the residency was like that, like I mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the special thing about the party? Because you seem to be really, really connected with them.
So Mamba has this very special atmosphere and aura, I would say. Uh, the visuals, the performers, the artists, the venues, and the crowd. It's super well connected because they were always super aware on educating their crowd and being very on point with the way they think politically and artistically. So it's made by women and it's a safe space for LGBTQ people
Right.
and people of color. And the party has always this concept. So you feel very comfortable and embraced when you were there. It's like a separate planet from Earth, I would say. So um, when you were either as an artist when you're going to perform or as a part of the crowd.
Yeah.
And it has this magic, you know. It's very
Yeah.
different from any other party I've been to.
Yeah, and it seems it's because of the community that is part of the party.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you feel that in Brazil or in South America there is a tendency to have, let's say, parties where people feel unsafe? So therefore, Mamba Negra created a community where it's very different because it created this safety net where people feel like, oh, I don't need to be scared.
Yeah. Like, well, the scene itself in the whole world before we had this community sense
Yeah.
was not being very careful with politics, with safe spaces for minorities and marginalized bodies. And of course, Mamba is not the first and not the only one.
Yeah.
At the same time, many of the parties that are part of the scene that you see right now were behaving like that. So that's how we kind of created the community in our scene. That it's a bit like this scene is like 10 years old or something. So before that, where all the parties were in clubs and nobody was taking care of that.
Got it. Yeah. So I guess the clubs makes the experience much less personalized. It's usually for an audience that it doesn't need to feel home or protected. It's more like you go there, you get smashed, you dance a lot of hours, you buy a lot of alcohol. I guess it depends on the scene, and the underground parties. I guess they provide an alternative.
Yeah, and before that, we always had unsafe spaces, especially when you were a woman or you are part of a minority. There is a lot of sexual harassment here everywhere.
Right.
And people will just grab you by the arm, by your hair, and there was no education at all, not in part, not on the part from the party or from everyone else. So I remember not feeling safe in many events and clubs before this whole community sense started.
Got it, and that's horrible to hear. I'm sorry for that. It is something that happens in Europe as well. Certainly, it's not. I think it's everywhere. Unfortunately,
everywhere. Yeah.
There is what some people call toxic masculinity.
It's the patriarchy consequences, I would say.
Yeah. Do you think the Mamba Negra has somehow like has established this freedom or this safety as one of the main value? And if so, what were the things that worked really well for them to make it work this way?
I think it's, well, first of all, because of the crew that runs the party, like the whole staff is basically composed by women, LGBTQ, people of color, and all kinds of minorities. And that makes a huge difference. And you can tell by how the party treats their staff and artists,
Right.
and how they treat their crowd, because many events in the electronic music scene just think about tickets and the sound system and maybe the visuals, and that's part of the experience, not the whole thing. So, and also like the way they express themselves on social media. You have also posters in the party at the party, like communicating, like if you are being harassed by someone, if you feel unsafe, they put a WhatsApp number from the security chief, so you can have like someone to look after you if something happens.
Yeah.
It's all the communication and the way they educate their public.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I guess when the infrastructure or is set this way, so when you go there, you know that you have an example of people that are treated well, even the staff is treated well, the staff is welcoming, and there are rules that are very clear, they're respected. It's much harder for the dickhead to behave not in a nice way because they see a different
Yes.
example.
Yes, and it's not like it's impossible to control every single person. And there were many times that I saw this kind of behavior at the parties, including the other parties that are also queer and safe. But these behaviors were, they feel more intimidated to behave that
Right.
way. And they don't, either they change the way they act or they just don't come anymore. So it made a difference.
Yeah. Do you think so? Mamba Negra, how big is the average Mamba Negra event? How many people normally go there?
From 1,000 to 2.5, like it
1,000.
depends, but always like up to 800 people. Normally,
Yeah.
I would say 1,500 people. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a relatively, it's not a festival, but it's a big party to be.
It is a festival. No,
In a way.
Yeah, because they always have like three stages. Mamba started having like a live act stage where they put either electronic gear live acts or bands that had some kind of connection with the music style. Then you have a techno stage and then a house stage. Like the edition I did, my Boiler Room, was like that. So there were
Right.
like four stages actually. Those three I mentioned it, and the Boiler Room stage that was in a tiny room inside the building.
Got it. So it's a big party. It feels like a festival with different stages.
Yeah, it feels, yeah.
Yeah. So have you ever felt that the vibe changed? So from the very first party, which I imagine was smaller than this, to what it is today before lockdown, it grew massively in terms of audience. Have you felt like the vibe changed in a way, and because it grew up bigger, you lost a bit of the vibe, or not at all?
In my own perspective, I think it just got better. There was some additions that happened, what I just mentioned, like too many bros, they were harassing girls and stuff like that. But then that was taken care of very quickly, I would say.
Yes.
And I'm not saying for everyone because I can't know what happened every edition, but
Of course.
I feel that it only got better and everybody grew older, got more experience and improved professionally. And Mama started in a very funny way. It was Kashu's and Laura's birthday party at their rooftop of their building. I wasn't even there, even knew them by then. But that's how they started. But I think 500 people came over at the rooftop where they used to live. And that they just had to move out of the party and started renting warehouses.
That's very cool. It's interesting, and I would love at some point to go and see Mamba Negra. Thank you. Well, I would love to, and I'm sure like the Alessandro would love to as well.
Yeah.
I know you're resident also of a few other parties. There is another one that you mentioned when we spoke before called Dando, that is particularly is increasing in popularity and is also like a safe space for the queer community. Specifically for the queer community, do you want to tell me more about Dando, and then I'll ask you a couple of questions about the scene?
Sure. So Dando is fetish party that it's been going on, I think, for the last 4 years, and it's basically focused on sex and music. And it's amazing because they changed the way those parties are done here, because before you would only see pop music at these parties. So it's basically gay community itself. Of course, you
Mhm.
have like all sorts of people, but basically gay men. And they really changed the way, like they started doing a very well curated music part for these events. The same owners, they have also another party called Popcorn, which was pop music, of course, and it's huge. So they
Mm.
had all of this crowd that would go there to this party, and then would go to Dando afterwards. And Dando is basically house music, acid, and uplifting vibes. It's not techno industrial at all.
Yeah.
It's funny because outside of Brazil, you see a lot of these parties are very heavy techno,
Dark.
and all
Yeah.
those dark vibes. Here, well, we're in Brazil, like you can't go there. It doesn't fit the weather and the vibes of our people.
Yeah.
So, and that's what they prefer here as well. And Dando is also like a family to me, like Mamba as well. And I started DJing for them when I was invited for the first edition. I I admit I was a bit scared because I never been to a party like that. So my and I knew everyone there, right? So my
Mhm.
friend just grabbed me by the arm and brought me to the booth. And then I was there. Everybody was naked and having a good time, and the energy was not heavy at all. It was very welcoming. Everybody was happy doing whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
And on the first day after my set, I just told the promoter, which is a good friend of mine, okay, so I'm a resident now, right? I told him like a joke, and he just like, okay, yeah.
Wow.
So since day one, I'm a resident for Dano, and now I became their music curator. I
Very
was
cool.
constantly booking artists for them,
Mhm.
and that has been my job for them. All of us do a different part of the party, so now I'm going to take care of the podcasts. And also, we did a few Zoom parties during the first part of the pandemic last year. It was very fun.
That's very
And
cool.
yeah, and now there's also starting a label. So I'm doing a lot of work with them. And it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and the artists that you guys tend to book are from the queer scene, are from Brazil. What they tend to be from?
You mean for Dando?
Oh, for
Or in
Dando, yeah,
general?
yeah, for
Okay.
Dando.
So for Dando, we always try to make a balance between diversity, and we also have straight male dudes play it sometimes.
Mhm.
Like we want to be inclusive, so
Yeah,
we invite them sometimes.
yeah.
But then, um, well, first of all, the music needs to be good, of course, and we have so many artists in the LGBTQ scene in Brazil and outside of Brazil, and sometimes there is an artist that is not queer, but it's beloved by the queer community,
Of
like
course.
Alejandro Paz from Chile. Like I booked him for Dando, and I felt like I was in a concert. Everybody knew the lyrics of his tracks. It was so
Wow.
amazing. And yeah, so we always mix female, people of color, queer, all these intersections. We try to make this balance to make it fair for everyone.
Yeah, and very interesting. So in a way, that the party itself is supporting the artist community by giving them access to like a bigger, crowd. That's very cool. Is there like how does that interact with the more popular and commercial music? Do the scenes feel like let me ask the question in another way. So someone who goes to Dando, would they go to a commercial party, or is like no way?
Yeah, they would. Yeah,
They would, yeah.
because Dando has part of the crowd is part of the electronic music scene, the underground scene.
Right.
And part of them are going also to commercial clubs that also have sex parties.
Yeah.
So it's a mix. But that's nice because
exactly,
people wouldn't come to the underground if it wasn't for Dando. So it's a very nice way to educate in a musical way these people that will only listen to EDM or tribal house at big clubs.
And it's inclusive, as you mentioned before. Like I think the other important part of inclusion is also like, if one wants to be inclusive, I think it's important to be really welcoming with other cultures that not necessarily might like the same thing. Maybe they come once, they're like, I don't like the music, I like the scene. Whatever.
Yeah. Some people just come for the vibes, Like some parties, even if you don't like the music, the vibes are welcoming. You just go because it's fun. So yeah, I think it's that's the strategy in some way. Yeah.
Got it. Yes, and there was another thing that when I was looking for your background and your music, I've seen that you done a Boiler Room about a year and a half ago now. And how was that? How did that feel?
Well, it felt amazing because if it was in another situation, I would be freaking out because everybody freaks out with boiler rooms. I normally say that boiler room should come with a psychologist, like a therapist, to relax you before your show because it's not easy. But my boiler room was at Mamba Negra, and it was one of the floors, and the lineup was all of my friends. So I felt I was just playing at a regular Mamba. I barely saw the cameras. So, and they were very discreet with the cameras too. It was not on my face. And I think a little before that, I played in the digital festival here, which was a big thing to me. By then it was like the biggest stage I've played ever. So I was already comfortable after that and prepared. If Boiler Room came without that, maybe I would be more nervous. But I felt I was 100% ready, and it was very. I was very grateful for it. It was also the first time I played using 3 CDJs at the same time, so it was very challenging for me. And seeing all my friends there, it was very everybody seems like the stage manager or the people dancing next to me. Everybody was a familiar face, so it made everything easier.
Very interesting, and they made you feel home in a way. You felt like I'm supported, and. There was one of two of our previous guests, the guys from HeX Barcelona, Polly and Lorenzo. They shared with us that there was not a mistake, but someone shot a CDJ while one of them was playing during the Boiler Room, and someone from the public came and pressed stop on the CDJ. So basically, the CDJ for 2 seconds stopped, and everybody panicked. And I think maybe it was Lorenzo that was playing, and he was like, my heart stopped. Imagine, you have cameras, and you have people who are like, whoa, what happened? And these things happen.
Always something in boiler rooms, always. It never goes from point A to B without something. That's the magic, maybe. In my case, the booth monitors went on and off and on and off during my last 30 minutes, and the first time it went off, I had the 3 decks open, and I was like, okay, I am delivering this into the hands of God, and it is what it is. And I don't know, it just sounded okay after that. I'm so glad because it was really tense for me.
Wow, it could have gone wrong, but it went well. Perfect. Do you remember any particular mistakes, not in the Boiler Room, but anything that you have done in your DJ career that was either super fun or frightening for you?
Oh my God, there's so many.
What one that comes to mind? Doesn't need to be.
Okay, there's a funny. I don't want to humiliate myself in public either, but there's a funny one. When I played Berghain for the second time, of course I was nervous, and I was playing after Kari Lekebush, which I'm a huge fan, and I was so nervous to play after him, and okay, I was ready. My USBs were ready. I had my first track set, and he was finishing his last track, and I was with my headphones on, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't hear it! I can't hear it!" And it wasn't plugged to the mixer. It was just on my head, you know.
No pressure, and
Well, it was cool though because after that, I just said, "Fuck it." Now I'm just like cool, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
you keep the cool and like let's rock and roll now. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, if you just start getting anxious and depressed, it will damage your whole thing for the next 4 hours. So,
Yeah.
well, that's something I learned from my past mistakes for sure. Trying to keep calm and chill and sober and focused before I play. Like, because before I was just going to the parties and then, okay, it's my time to DJ. And then I go there and I think I'm rocking. And if I'm not focused, if I'm not sober, and I just think I'm doing well. And afterwards, I just regret stuff I did, or
Yeah.
I do impulsive things. I'm not thinking wisely. So nowadays, like I never party before I go to play nowadays. And now I play like before the pandemic. The last year and a half, I was closing all the events I was being booked at. So all my slots were 6 a.m., 9 a.m. You know, so I had to sleep the whole night. I stopped going to the parties.
Yeah. So you would sleep and then wake up 2 hours before the party and go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the best strategy. And in my experience as well, like alcohol is the worst because you think you're doing a great job, especially with CDJs in a very chaotic environment. You're
Yeah.
thinking, okay, this is gonna sound so good, and then you fuck it up, you don't realize it, you know?
Exactly. I mean, it's okay to drink if you're playing for a couple of hours already and you're already comfortable with that environment because
Yeah.
it's exactly what you said. It's chaotic. It's not like rehearsing at your studio. You have
Yeah.
lights, you have people that are high trying to talk to you and yelling at you and falling over you and the speakers and so many details to take care of. And besides that, I felt I was losing my energy, like just my vital energy, talking
Yeah.
to people before my sets. I wasn't focused enough, so I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to interact before my sets. So basically, I stay home meditating or sleeping and preparing myself, and it works.
It's very interesting. So you have some kind of a practice that you do before going to a set. So I guess you rest as much as possible. You meditate. You don't want to go into speaking with people. You actually want to go inside.
Yeah, exactly. Because I talk a lot. I'm very sociable, and I know everyone since before I was a DJ. I've been going to clubs since I'm 14, and I'm 34 now.
Wow.
So it's been 20 years I'm a river. And it's basically, I say hello to everyone. I want to talk to my friends. I want to talk to everyone. And if I do that, I just lose my focus and my energy to play. I better stay home before the gigs.
Yeah, it's interesting. And so I guess you're an extrovert. I would define you as an extrovert, someone who gets energy from speaking. And do you feel you get energized after a DJ set, or you get drained? So your energy goes down or up after a DJ set?
Normally it goes up.
Yeah.
But if it's something that I prepared for a long time, I feel drained. Like my digital festival set, I played for an hour and a half, and after me, Marcel Detman played, and then Jeff Mills. I didn't see them playing because I was just at the artist area drained as fuck. Like I couldn't get up. You know?
Yeah, I mean, of course, especially when you feel that you have pressure, like.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the focus goes into, instead of like being, I do this also for me to have fun, it's I need to deliver something, and that I think brings a lot of pressure instead of like giving you energy.
Yeah, it depends a lot on emotionally how you are and how much pressure you're putting on yourself for that occasion.
Yeah.
Yes. If it's somewhere you're comfortable with, it just gives you more energy to play party.
Yeah. I find that personally, especially when you have a community that you feel close to, that tends to give you energy, similar to what you were saying
Yeah.
before, where it feels like you're going back home. Feels like
Yes.
there are friends there. Like,
you're making me miss the party so much.
Me too. I was just thinking about, yeah. I was literally thinking about this. That I'm in London now, where I spent the last 8 years, and I miss that so much. Like just the feeling of like going close to people and play and listen to music with them.
You'll get that first before us.
I don't know. Let's see.
The vaccine is already there before.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm really wishful. I'm sure we're gonna sort this out. And talking about your mixing, like you have a what I would define an eclectic style of mixing. You mix techno, even darker techno than like very bright stuff, but you also play more housey, acid, disco as well. How do you see? How do you prepare if you prepare your set? So how do you see a set? What is success for you in a set?
Well, first of all, when I play in somewhere I haven't been before, especially when I'm touring, I always ask the promoters. I know if it's techno or house, right? Because that's the first door you open. Is it here or there? And then you have the other doors. So
Yeah.
I always ask, for example, I go to play to Stockholm or Moscow. Every country in the world has a favorite style in electronic music. So I always ask which kind of techno, which kind of vibes. Like if you want to go more hypnotic or more uplifting or more banging or more breaks, there are some places that you just can't play electro and breaks, for example. People just don't like that.
Yeah.
And some other places you can't go too dark because they just want uplifting vibes. And I always try to read I always try to get that information before my sets so I can prepare it in the hotel or whatever I am at. And normally, well, if it's in Brazil, I normally know the promoters. And in South America too, like when I play in Argentina, well, I know they really like acid vibes, they really like electro.
Energetic stuff.
Yeah, and Chile as well. And yeah, so I try to do that because I think it's a bit selfish just to go there and play what you think it works for you in Berlin. But it's not going to work here in Sao Paulo, and many DJs make that mistake. Coming here to play. They play whatever works in Bergheim. Sometimes it's not going to work at Mamba or at Dando or whatever, So you have to make this balance.
Yes, and I've seen almost like there. Let's say Jeff Mills is a very interesting example because he shuts down complete to any external conditioning. So he doesn't listen to other people's music apparently. He doesn't get influenced by what the specific place where he's gonna play wants, and it works really well for him. Maybe that's his style, but I'm more from on your camp. Like in the end, if you're performing, you do that for the people. Like you want a two-way communication. It's not that you are there to teach something to anyone.
We're not Jeff Mills.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't. I mean, I think he's a single of a kind. He's one of a kind. He can do that, but not everyone can do that. And I think his way of doing things is more like a band, that you expect that kind of show. Like it's different, and it has all this special aura around him. I don't know. He's just magical, he's beyond us. So I'll just
of course.
stick to human beings for now.
It's another level.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There are. I've seen a lot of like the way I would define it maybe is for non Jeff Mills level DJs, for normal people, for humans. I think there's people who DJ to communicate something and have a conversation, and there is people who DJ to say something, like to express what they have. And it might work both of them. Like I think the communicating is more fun, at least personally. I see that as a more engaging way to do stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, I
seems that
think if
you, yeah,
it's if I had a huge discovery and I was very known as a producer,
mm,
and maybe I was doing live acts, maybe I would have a different approach to this. But I'm first a DJ and I'm a very young producer. I
yeah,
don't do it for a long time, and if, especially because being a DJ in Brazil, you don't make a living if you want to play just one style of techno. There's no way you survive like that here. You have to be eclectic. You have to be versatile, and
yeah,
that's what Brazil taught me. Because at the beginning I wanted to play banging stuff and super dark and shit and blah blah blah. Because I played that in New York, I played that in Berlin. Why I can't do that here? And then I
yeah.
started like I switched my perspective. Instead of seeing the glass of water half empty,
Empty. Yeah,
I took that as learning because that taught me how to do all this mixing of styles. Because here people that's our country. We don't
mm,
have a Brazilian face. We are a mix of cultures of immigrants, and that goes to music as well. So it makes
yeah.
total sense that it's like that. And that taught me a very unique thing about going from here to there with music styles.
Right, and that's super interesting. So it's almost like the Brazil, especially, it's a country that is such a diverse mix of people, and that translates into the music culture. So where
Exactly.
people want different influences and all at the same time, and that works really well. It's beautiful. Yeah, and
Yeah.
talking about like actually there are two sets of like directions where we can go. I'm thinking, let's talk about the Brazilian scene. You are half Paraguayan, half Brazilian. What's the difference between the scene in Paraguay and in Brazil? And let's start with that one.
So, first of all, the scene in Brazil is much older, and in Paraguay started around, I would say, maybe 15 years ago. It's very fresh and young, and my influences came, of course, since my childhood and listening to music on the radio and etc. But like my DJ community started with Paraguayan DJs because
Yeah.
I have my best friend that is part from LPZ,
Hmm.
which are the pioneer DJ crew from Paraguay. They basically started everything there, the first clubs and parties and everything. So I got a lot of mentoring from them. And what I would say in terms of music is that they have certainly uplifting vibes of
Yeah.
techno. They love techno in Paraguay. They like house too, but they like more techno, and they like uplifting techno, like those morning techno that you were like super happy because it's already morning, but the party's not over yet, and that defines Paraguay. And
Yeah.
they are very happy that you're there. You see everybody so young, and many times I play there, I see that a lot of faces in the crowd are seeing a DJ for the first time. They are so young and fresh and naive, and that's so beautiful. And here is more, well, and Paraguay is much smaller than Brazil, and
Hmm.
the events basically happen in three cities there, which is the capital and
Asuncion.
Asuncion, and then the border with Brazil, which is Ciudad del Este,
Hmm.
and another city which is bordered with Argentina, which is Encarnacion. So everything is getting more concrete and ongoing. Now they have even competition in the scene there, which is wonderful. Because before you
Yeah.
only had like one party in each city, and now you even have like more tech house commercial, more underground. You have minimal, you have techno, you have house. but all very young. And
Yeah.
in Brazil, it's way bigger. Sao Paulo is huge. The scene, and you have seen in at least, oh, it's countless because you have Sao Paulo, you have Rio, you have Belo Horizonte, and then in the south of Brazil, you have many cities that have a techno scene for many years. There's a story here for since the 80s at least.
Yeah.
It's more structured.
There was a Brazilian DJ producer, Gui Burato, I think.
Yeah.
Who I think is part of the, I guess, early 2000. He's still active, I believe, and he's
Yeah.
from the south, or I think he's from the extreme south. I forgot the name of the city. It might be.
I have no idea.
Okay. Anyways, yeah.
But he's one of the most famous artists from Brazil, certainly.
Yeah.
And I think, I know he's from the south. I don't know if it's Curitiba or Florianopolis.
Florianopolis, I think.
Yeah, okay. That's the birthplace for many DJs.
Yeah. And what's the big difference? And I have there's a question from the audience, from Juliana. How is the different scene? Let's say, how is the electronic techno scene in Sao Paulo compared to Rio? And she said, I have parents. I have family who lives in Brazil, but I never heard of the electronic and techno there, and it's all about funk. And there is a lot of.
That's so interesting to talk about, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question, Juliana. So, funk is our electronic music from Brazil. If Brazil has its own style of electronic music, it's funk. Funk, the Brazilian funk, it's called funk because it had samples from James Brown music and influences from Miami bass. So it's basically created here and in Rio especially. And the difference, okay, so now we are in the peak of this moment that the underground electronic scene is having a super mashup with the carioca funk. And it's beautiful because we have so many new electro producers right now and that are doing a mix of both. And it's very authentic. And,
wow.
And ours, theirs, I'll say. And also, like, I have a residency also in Rio. It's called, from a party, it's called Code. It belongs to Ananda, which she's my partner, and we're doing the label together, and one of my best friends. And she even did some editions, like when she had DJ Stingray for her party, she had a different floor with a funk queer collective.
Wow.
It goes super well.
Yeah. So we're talking about, Ananda, the scene in Brazil, and the mix between funky and electronic music. Like, I also remember when I was in Brazil in 2016 in Rio, and I went to this club. The crowd was very young, and they were playing funky, and there were people singing Funky de la Favela, possibly, yeah.
Well, Funky da Favela is another name for Carioca Funky.
Carioca Funky, yeah.
Carioca is the name for people that were born in Rio.
Yeah.
So it's the same.
Same. Wow. It was very interesting because everybody was singing. So it was a proper club setting, and every track had lyrics, and everybody was singing like every single word. Everybody knew the words. That was impressive for me.
Yeah, it's very strong in their culture. You also have funk in Sao Paulo and in other cities, but it's from Rio is the strongest. Sure.
Yeah. Very cool. And I want to talk about also your collaboration. So you mentioned Ananda. Tell us a bit more about Ananda, how you two developed the relationship, and you're launching your launch label Micro Hits. That we can talk about that too.
So Ananda is, well, I hope you're watching me. Hi.
Hey, Ananda.
She is one of the best artists in Brazil, in my opinion. And we met each other playing at a festival in Bahia, I think 6 years ago. And since then, we just connected and started booking each other and playing together B2B, because by then I remember there were not many girls playing similar styles to mine. So I think I found my pair. And it's very funny because our names are similar. We look like each other. And well, after a few years, we found out our mom's last name is the same one. So,
No way.
yes, I'm Amanda Viana Mussi, and she's Ananda Viana. So,
Wow.
yeah, we are
Super
separate by birth. And we had this idea to launch this label for a while. We've been thinking about it for the past 2 years without any rush. We didn't even have the name or anything. And we just had like the music style we wanted. And we had a few tracks that we had demos like from our Paraguayan friends and from us. And this year, well, the last year, I finally found some time to dedicate to that. And well, we had a lot of spare time.
Yeah.
Without the gigs. And we decided to do it because also, well, I do all the visual part, the art direction, and some of the networking, and basically the artistic part. And of course, she does it as a curator as well. And but she also helps a lot with the office part, like doing the numbers, and we want to do merch, so she's helping me to take care of that too. I design the things, and then she does all the other part of like checking out the fabrics and materials. And she has a lot of experience because of the party, where she does a lot of hard work with her boyfriend Felipe, which he's also part of the team. And yeah, so we just started the label, and we are preparing our first release. It will be of various artists, basically with Latin American artists. There's going to be,
Cool.
I think, only one person from New York. And the theme is basically music for working out. We want very energetic and fun stuff.
Yeah.
And some like music style that reminds you of South America, that is part of our culture. And but before the VA, we got a residency on the Lot Radio from New York.
Yep.
And we started the brand with that. So we just launched the first show 2 weeks ago, and it's going to be curated by us. So it's not going to be us playing. And we want to help as much as we can all this amazing thing that we have here in South America to have a spotlight on the radio and on the releases.
That's very cool. And the VA, do you know already when you're expecting to release it?
Well, the best scenario would be mid-February.
Okay.
But we still don't know. But yeah, we want to do it while still is summer here.
Yeah, we'll make sure to reshare it. So send it to us when it's out.
Yes, I will.
I'm looking forward to that. Someone said soulmates for you and Ananda.
We are.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I think the idea of the label was there for 2 years, but I was struggling about the visual parts, because when you have to design it for yourself, it's very hard. It's not when you do it for a client. And I have a background in illustration, and I was also a graffiti writer before I was a DJ. So I just rescued all my background, and it's very Sao Paulo, and it's also very Rio, because Ananda is from Rio. And what could go better than how our streets look like for the label? And it's fun to design, and it just rescued a very fun part of me, which it was put on a side because of all my life in music, and now I just got it there.
Yeah. If there is probably one thing that we had this year that was positive is time. I mean, more time to do to
Yeah, the only thing.
yeah, probably the only thing. Yeah, and I guess to some extent, even connection with people, even if it's a different type of connection,
Yeah, I would
probably
say that. Yeah, it connected me in a stronger way to people that were already there and
yeah,
brought me new connections for sure.
yeah. Let's hope it finishes, but there was still something good. Let's hope that the
Yeah,
year
we
this
will do
time.
better things out of this when everything's
Yeah,
back. I hope so.
exactly. And one of the things that I've read in one of the previous interviews you had was one of your values is to open as many doors as possible as you can. Uh, how do you bring this value? How do you remind yourself to live this value in your life, in your music career? Is there anything that you observe like as a practice?
Well, it's not something that I have to remind myself to do it because it's just natural for me. I've always been an extrovert person that travels a lot and knows a lot of people. And all this um, idea started because I was always trying to bring my Paraguayan friends to play in Brazil,
Hmm.
even before I was a DJ. So I saw how hard it was to make them visible
Wow.
because of all the there's a lot of discrimination around Paraguay in Brazil, you know.
Hmm.
It's very xenophobic. So
Yeah.
it's different from when you say Argentina or Chile, you know. And I took that as a mission because they were my mentors and the people I believed in. And they are incredibly talented. And the world needed to see them. So that's how it began for me. And living in Sao Paulo made it possible because you have more networking connections here. You see people from everywhere, and you have the clubs and everything. So I was part of the scene since many years, and then I found out, I realized that I had this facility of communicating. I just make a lot of friends whenever I go, and
Yeah.
I stick to those friendships. Like, and I something always happens out of those friendships. You know, I always have nice connections for life, for work. I just love connecting people, like introducing people and making everything possible when it's uh, how do you say? I
To
forgot
help,
the word. Well,
to support, or
yeah, when it's on my reach,
uh-huh.
I always want to do as much as I can
Yeah.
because no one did it for me before. You know, like
Mm.
when I was in those times trying to bring them, and when I became an artist, of course, I got help from many people, and that's how it goes. You know, you
Yeah.
help someone, someone helps you.
Yeah. And what goes around comes around in a way.
Yeah,
Like if you are helping people, it's you're doing something valuable for tons of others. Like you don't do that for something to come back, but that expands your
it just
network.
happens.
Yeah, expands your friendships. That's the other good thing.
It's from my heart.
Yeah, I can tell it, and also like I mean, pretty much in everything you do, there is a component of like supporting your local scene, supporting other artists, connecting with people. Alt booking, you run a booking agency for local artists in South America. Like that's another proof of like you have this thing of like that's what probably excites you of music as well, not just about
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
playing.
that's
Yeah,
how it started actually. The agency.
yeah. And how did the agency start?
So it started to basically sell everyone under the same label,
Hmm.
like a group of people that were doing similar things in a collective way. So it
Hmm.
started for a club in Paraguay, which is, no longer exists, Sequence Club. It was one of the best clubs that Paraguay had. And before out, it was called Sequential, and
Hmm.
it was to book the residents of the club. And because everybody was playing, and I was sometimes bringing people here. were playing there, and nobody had contracts. And all of us have size talent. Like my cousin Victoria, she was a translator, and she's a badass executive producer. My friend P. Lopez from LPC is an amazing studio guy, and the other LPC's guys too. Then the other guy, Alex, he was running the club and doing all the numbers and office work. I was a graphic designer for them as well, and I could do these connections and all the
Yeah.
networking parts being in Sao Paulo. So I was thinking, okay, I know how to do contracts. I know how to design visual like this. I know how to build a website. I just need a photo and a bio of everyone and put it all together. Because now it's gonna make more sense because everybody's doing great and being brilliant and talented, but floating around without like any formalities. And at that point, it was getting messy if we didn't do that. So it was a bit to organize things. It's not that, oh my god, I was selling the artists for millions, that never happened. But it's a way to organize everybody under a single brand and making us look as proper collective and having contracts. So that's how we started.
And the mutual support, it's almost like the sum of you plus your LPZ, for example. Like it's more than 1 plus 1 is not 2, is 4, because then you help each other. Like they help you
all the time.
You help them. That's something very beautiful, and I wished the more people understood that. Like it's not everybody.
There's no other way when you are from third world countries where you don't have all the resources in the world and where everything is more expensive and harder to get. And that's also beautiful because it made us more human and more connected.
Yeah. Well, we are
easier to. Sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, maybe it's easier for someone that has a drum machine since they're 15 and they have a studio with air conditioner and all the gear and they have money to release their music by themselves. Yeah. Maybe it's easier, but we're not like that here. So.
It's true. There was I met a group a year ago. I went to Cuba, and there is a very, very good, strong support network and scene of people who are young producers of techno, electronic music. And I went to this studio where they produce and record reggae, techno, and it's amazing because there's a bunch of them who share stuff with each other because it's very hard to get instruments there. So everybody's like helping each other, like, oh, okay, I'll help you record something. And even if when they don't do the same music, that brings a lot of help and support to the scene because it's helping everybody actually do what they like, what they want to do. It's bringing opportunities for the entire group. It's a beautiful thing to do.
Yeah, there's always a magic that comes out of struggling.
Yeah. So we should see a lot of magic after this year, I think.
Yeah.
And Amanda, as we're gonna start. Probably we have another 10-15 minutes, and I'm gonna ask people who are still connected to shoot your questions either here on Instagram or on Facebook, and we're gonna start asking them to Amanda. Last question that I have for you from my side is you released your first EP on Massa Records, which is again like another South American label. What did you learn from this process? Like, how excited were you when it came out? Tell us a bit more.
Well, it's very beautiful, the story behind it, because first of all, the label belongs to Renato Cohen, which is one of the biggest legends of Brazil, and he was the first techno DJ that got famous outside of Brazil. He was the first Brazilian to play Berghain, and he was one of my first influences. When I was just raving as a teenager, I used to love to see him play. And it was a full circle for me to be invited to release. I wasn't even doing a lot of tracks by then. He just listened to one of my tracks that I think it sucks, but he invited me. And I did a hard work, but I thought it would be harder though, because such a pressure, right? But then I was just so happy about it, and it came out really smoothly. The keyboard cats track, I did it in 2 hours on the airplane, like while I was touring.
Wow.
And then of course I did the main draft in 2 hours, and I think it's one of my happiest tracks because all the other ones are like super heavy or darker, yeah. And also, well, the other track that is starting Jupiter, which means afternoon in Jupiter, or can be late in Jupiter. It has like those transitions. And I don't even remember the process of it. It looks like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But whatever. So I just did the tracks, and the keyboard cats, which is the main one, has this piano house Detroit-ish vibes that it just, I don't know. I don't even think I can do a track like that anymore. Like it was just once in a lifetime, and I didn't know how to name it. Like that was like the last part. Renato was like, "Okay, Amanda, now we need the name. You have like 10 deadlines," and I couldn't name the tracks.
You gotta do it.
And then remember that it's so silly. Remember the keyboard cat meme, that it was a cat floating in the universe playing keyboards. So he died. That cat died on the day I had to name the album.
Wow.
So I named the album after that cat, and also I'm a cat person. And I had my own keyboard cat, which was my cat that passed away last year. She
Wow,
was
sorry.
always, yeah, she was always sleeping on my monitors while I was producing banging techno.
Wow.
She used to love it. So it was that's the story.
Yeah, it worked out. I mean, you put out the music, and now it's the start of a long journey, and who knows?
I'm
Looking
gonna
forward
have
to
to charge my phone because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
almost dying here. Just 1 second.
And actually, why don't we do one thing? We actually ask people on Instagram to go on Facebook for the last 10 minutes, so we
Yeah.
do the Q&A. Yeah.
That would be better because then you're gonna have to I'm gonna have to plug this off and you're gonna listen.
Let's do like that.
Okay.
Friends on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. You can find us on Amanda's Facebook page or almost on Facebook page. See you there.
Bye.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay, let's continue.
Okay, perfect.
Nice. Okay, so we have a question. Someone said, when will you do your back-to-back with Ballbox in Panorama Bar?
Wow, in Panorama, I don't know, but in Berkeley for sure, I think that can happen.
Yeah.
I think it fits more in Berkeley than Panorama or back to back. I can't wait to play with Ariana again.
Yeah.
I love her. Yeah.
You played together, right? You already played. You did a back-to-back or not yet?
Yeah, we played twice. We are very close friends.
Yeah.
We played here at dusk at my party.
Mhm.
And we were so nervous. That was so funny. And it was like my party where she played several times, and we know each
Yeah.
other for years, and we were nervous. It was really fun. And our second back-to-back was so good. It was Basement in New York.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Basement in New York. She lives in New York, I think.
She lives in New York.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And so no plans for now because there's no gigs, but we'll see. And another question is, how would you encourage people who are aspiring producers in South America? Maybe they live in a place that is not a big city where they don't find a scene. How can they continue to believe in what they're doing or find connections, perhaps online? I don't know.
Yeah, that's very. I don't even know how a person like that feels because I've always lived in a big city, and it must be very hard. I think, well, at least with the internet, you can communicate with others and try to connect with people that have similar ideals. And that's the only way. If you have a way to travel, or if you don't, you basically have the internet and your music, and try to send to as much as people as you can. And
Yeah.
there's always someone nice that's gonna be supportive, you know. But there's gonna be a lot of no's too. But there's always someone who's gonna be supportive.
Yeah.
I've done that so many times too.
Yeah, of course. It is tricky. I guess the internet offers a chance. I just saw Marina is saying Berlin misses you.
Ay, Marina, boluda, te extraño. I miss her so much.
That's very nice. I'm checking for more questions. Yes, any EPs that you're producing or planning to release yourself of your own
Yes.
music? Yes.
There are a couple of releases forthcoming. So let's start with, well, I have remixes. I have remix for an Italian artist, Marshall, from Tempio del Futuro.
Oh yeah.
So he's
Milan.
producing a VA with a lot of remixes of his track.
Yeah.
Then I have another remix I'm releasing on a Miami label. It's gonna come out on vinyl. The label is called Concreta Sala, which is also a record shop. And I have, oh my God, I lost it. I have, well, there's gonna be a track of mine, and also with Ananda and Pilopes on our macro VA on our label. Yes, and there are some other things I can't talk about right now.
Yeah.
And then I have this. I don't know when this is coming out. There are two other tracks that one is coming out in Colombian label. That it's a female collective. It's called Not Latin America. And
Not.
then Not, like NOTT.
Yep. NOTT. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, and they're releasing various artists as well. Then there is so there is my first EP on LPZ Records finally.
Wow, congrats.
That's such a full circle to me as well, because I'm releasing with my boys and I'm releasing 2 tracks, and the 3 of them are remixing separately the 2 tracks. So I'm very, very excited.
Yeah. Very cool. Looking forward to this one, especially the LPZ, because it sounds like something very close to your art.
Please. Yeah, I'll send you.
Yeah, please do. And let us know so we can reshare it with our community. In the meantime, Lucas Pereira said, Amanda, love you to the moon and back, my dear friend. Sending love.
Oh, wow. Beijo, bicha.
It's very cool. You have a lot of people that love you. Like.
Oh, I love them back. So
it's nice.
That what happens when you talk a lot.
when you're friendly, when you're nice with people, you support them. And actually, question from our side, from HoS Sound. If you had $1,000 to spend, you cannot save them, you cannot invest them, you cannot donate them even. You just need to spend them. What would you spend them on?
Studio gear.
Studio gear, okay. That was easy. It was like not thinking. That's it.
That's all I need.
and if you were to donate the same amount to any cause, does anything come to mind? Any charity or whatever cause, problem in the world?
Well, I would certainly either donate it to a trans house here, that a non-profit organization for trans people, that we have some of them here, or I would just give it to my mom.
Yeah.
Because I mean, she deserves it as well.
That's nice. And okay, I think there's another question from the public. I'm just checking. And yeah, any plans with your streamings? Any sets that you are thinking to stream in the
Yeah,
next month or so?
actually, tomorrow
Wow, perfect.
I have a radio show on the best local radio from Brazil. It's Veneno Live. I'll send you the link. So I have this show. It's called Aerobica, which is dedicated to workout music. So it's 3 p.m. here, and I think it's Berlin would be for 7 p.m.
7 p.m. Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's tomorrow 3 p.m. from Sao Paulo. I'll be playing live from the radio, and that's it for now. I mean, we don't want to do any streams anymore. It's a pain in the ass.
Too much.
I'm sorry. I did 1,000 streams last year.
Yeah.
I just don't have energy. I mean, the radio is fine because everything is set and you just go there and play. It's such a hard work.
It is hard work, and also I guess the big difference is that you don't get the same energy, like similar to what we were saying before. Like you finish and you're like, oh fuck, now I need to clean the mess that I created in my living room.
And sometimes you do pre-recorded ones.
Yeah.
And you don't like the result, and all that work was in vain. You know, you have this green screen, and you moved everything from the place it used to be, and you had to put everything back and clean on the mess.
Yeah. It's, let's see. Hopefully, we're gonna go back to some normality again. Very quickly, I'm gonna ask you the last two questions from the public and one question from our side. What's happening in the techno scene currently with COVID? In Latin America, there are a lot of football matches and other shows. Some small venues are doing limited capacity parties. Do you have any expectation of when things are gonna go back to normal?
In Brazil, it's so blurry right now. We don't really know what's gonna happen. We started the vaccination now, but for the elderly, so it's gonna take a lot of months till it reaches the young crowd. So, but of course, there are thousands of illegal events which we are not part of. It's basically more commercial parties or other styles of music. And I know Paraguay, the situation there is less bad than here. So there are legal events happening for reduced crowd. So I'm gonna be playing there the end of this month. I think it's next week already. Yeah, but it's reduced capacity. So and there's no perspective on anything. I would say by the end of the year everything's gonna be done.
Yeah, let's see. Exactly. Hopefully, feels so long, but let's see. A question from John Esther. Hey Amanda, as you have traveled around the world, what do you normally like to share with your listeners that can represent the scene where you come from? For example, like music, style of dance, a closing track from your roots, something that like kind of summarizes your scene.
I always try to play as much as possible the tracks from Latin America producers and bring percussive vibes, like some sort of carnival vibes, which I'm not even this carnival person, but I love the percussions and I love these percussive techno. It reminds me a lot of Brazil, you know, so I always try to bring this percussive energy and playing local music.
Got it. It's more like bringing Brazil to the to the world.
Yeah.
That's very cool. And last question from our side is a tradition of Almost Sound. What question would you like us to ask our next guest without knowing who they're gonna be?
We don't know who's the person?
Yeah, so without knowing who they're gonna be, like could be anyone. What question would you ask them?
Okay. It's a pandemic question, I would say. What are you doing to keep your mental health in shape during the pandemic?
Wow, yeah. Tough one. your mental health. And as you might imagine, Amanda, there is a question from the previous guest.
Okay, who was the previous guest?
Setak Mas.
Okay.
Sam, Setak Mas,
Great,
yeah.
great.
And he asked, how do you find structure in your schedule, in your career, and juggle all different things that you do? He didn't know it was you, so it was...
Okay, how do I find structure in my schedule?
Yeah. Basically to juggle with different things. So for example, you have a label, you do your shows, you release on other people's labels.
Well, I try to, it's not that I can, but I try to. I try to organize by topics, my priorities, day by day. And so I have a lot of, I take a lot of notes. I have my Google schedule, and I'm just pretending I'm that organized. Who am I trying to trick here? But basically, I'm writing down all my priorities so I can separate morning and afternoon and evening to each thing, and also have my spare time to exercise and sleep and,
have fun.
I try to write it down. Yeah.
Got it. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for being with us. It's been a fun chat. Really pleasure to meet you and to see more about South America, all the work you're doing. For people to check out your work, to follow you, what's the best platform or link?
Instagram and SoundCloud. Yeah. They're both the same.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. I had an amazing time spending the afternoon with you and all the lovely questions, and thank you for having all the interest in my culture. And whatever you guys need, I'm happy to help with. And I had a great time. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, and thanks to everybody who connected and asked questions as well and supported you with so much love. Amanda, I hope we can meet in person soon and dance. That's the best.
Will.
Yes, for sure.
This year for sure. Okay, grazie mille.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, ciao.
Ciao. Okay, guys, this is Joseph, and this is the outro. If you really like the content, I wanted to ask you, please consider liking us on Instagram or leaving a review on the podcast. Whether you're using that on Apple is very useful for us, and your comment makes all of our work worth it. Also, if you have any guests that you really would like us to chat with, let us know. We take any suggestion or any feedback, and we use it to improve and direct what we're going to do next. If you're a producer and you're interested in masterclasses with artists such as Scalamaria, VSK, Romek, Lag, and many more, you can now check our website homosound.co.uk. We have plenty of classes and more are coming as well. So brace yourself, you're going to get a lot of content. And one last thing, shout out for Vlad for editing this podcast, and Declan for creating the content that you all see on social media. Plus, of course, big thanks to Juliana, Flaminia, Alessandro, and Rick from TapeFeed for all the rest of the work at HoS Sound. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time at HoS Sound.